Hello everyone, very excited to be here with you. And first thing I want to say, it's my first time as a TEDx speaker, so I need your support, guys. Thank you. My name is Eldar and I am an expert on Uzbek language. I don't know English as well as Uzbek, but I hope I can tell you something interesting in this language next 10 minutes. So my speech is about how to make your Uzbek perfect within 2 months. And I have to be honest with you at the beginning. No way, actually. You do know it. All we know that you should do your best to improve your language skills year to year. Doing best every day is only way. But 2 months are enough to improve one side of your language skills. For example, writing. Of course, if you know Uzbek in good level. And that's my experience I want to share with you. I've been writing in Uzbek since I remember myself. There were school years when my first article was published in local newspaper. I used to write in Uzbek not only for newspapers, but tried more other formats, such as scientific texts, short stories, even poems. Yes, I'm a poet a little bit. And the biggest problem I faced during my activity as an Uzbek-speaking journalist and blogger was the bad development of language. I faced the lack of significant number of books in Uzbek on several disciplines, several topics. I faced the lack of professional terminology. I faced the lack of vocabulary, the lack of professional texts, the lack of reliable sources. Yes, we know Uzbek was under Russian influence during Soviet epoch. Russian was de facto official language, and Uzbek was just a local language, which was relevant just for household communication, balletry, poetry, etc. But we had a chance to change the situation after the fall of Soviet Union. We had a chance to make Uzbek the language of state agencies, the language of legislation and science. But we didn't do it. I'm not here to analyze why we blew this chance, really. I don't know it exactly. Maybe the practice of using Russian language in legislation and science was stronger than we could imagine. Maybe Uzbekistan had no financial and intellectual sources to develop state language. Maybe we didn't pay enough attention and respect to state language to try to use it in our everyday activity. I don't know. But the fact is, Uzbek language is still at a crossroads. The situation around Uzbek language looks like a vicious circle. We have no sufficient number of books in Uzbek. We have no practice of writing professional texts in Uzbek. And many young people, many young professionals have to write in Russian and English due to the lack of practice of Uzbek writing in Uzbek language. As a result, we have no Uzbek texts again, and this situation runs to another circle. As a situation, in this situation, many young professionals, specialists, state agencies, representatives don't know Uzbek language in professional level, and they don't use state language in their activity, their job. It is a really bad situation when only journalists and philologists know state language perfectly, and other professionals have to either approach them or use another, better developed language. In many countries I have been, professionals usually know their language in very high level. So what to do? How to interrupt this circle? Eventually, we cannot force everybody to go to journalism school, yeah? And we also cannot wait significant efforts from the part of government, as I mentioned above. Looks like they have no so many time for state language. Maybe some young professionals could spend their years for developing language, for creating terminology or theoretical data, but in fact many young professionals prefer to use Russian or English. I was keen on these issues for a long time, and it became kind of challenge for me to develop professional Uzbek language. How to do it? Yes, I was realizing that efforts of one person will be too small contribution, but I was hoping that I can inspire other young people, and I can build a community of young Uzbek professionals writing in Uzbek language. And inspiration came to me last year when I was visited a scholar at George Washington University. I was a part of very interesting program, and 2 months spent in the university were very productive for me. We had several courses directed to improvement of our skills, especially in speaking and writing. And once I thought, why not? Why can't I implement my new knowledge to Uzbek language? And then I decided to launch writing course for young Uzbek professionals. It was my first experience in this way, and to be honest, I was afraid. But my business went better than I expected, and I should express my gratitude to all who helped me. First of all, I announced a competition for young Uzbek professionals who are interested in improving their writing skills in Uzbek. Then I made a deal with the training center. I prepared program materials, chose the best candidates who are working in very different areas. For example, my first cohort included a historian, an economist, a philologist, a psychologist, even IT manager. It was a very interesting party. So my aim was to inspire young people, to teach them how to write in Uzbek in clear and beautiful way. I'm not able to tell more about my course here because it can be regarded as an advertising, but I can say that the course was very efficient, and right now I'm on a way of publishing the pieces of my students. This is not a good example, or not a big example, not a big experience actually. But I think my experience shows how can we make a difference step by step. I taught 6 persons. They will teach 36. And this is how we can impact society. Many Uzbek intellectuals, journalists, bloggers, as you know, are usually criticizing people for orthographical mistakes in, for example, street advertising. But this kind of criticism has zero impact. I'm sure that we should teach, not criticize, because bad language knowing isn't a problem, isn't a personal problem of Uzbeks. It is a problem of bad education system. It is a problem of Uzbek intellectuals. It is a problem. It is the problem of society, and it is a problem of unclear language policy. All we know how USA or Great Britain promote English. Yeah, they have very clear language policy. Unfortunately, we have no such policy. We have only post-colonial language practices. The language is the most important part of cultural identity of society, of every society. And language policy, with the social linguistic aspect, can reflect the whole society. And I believe that all young people should be involved to development of state language and contribute to cultural transformation of new Uzbekistan. That's all I want to say. Thank you for your attention.